Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome to another episode of News Dose, where I give you the latest news in video games. And right now it looks like Sony's claiming the PlayStation 5 to be the fastest console in the world, which is a bit of a weird statement for the time being, so we will talk about that. And also, PlayStation has delayed a couple of high-profile games, and yes, I did say a couple, as this looks to have had a domino effect where one game was delayed, which caused the release schedule to go all cattywampus. Then we have Bethesda releasing a new subscription service that has fans up in arms, and also we have some Xbox and Nintendo news a little later on, so stay tuned for all that as well. But let's talk about PlayStation 5 for a moment, because when I woke up this morning, this was actually the first bit of news I ran into, and I was just kind of surprised by this. Not because this is new information or anything, but rather that the statement is a little premature. The statement was made in a job advertisement saying that the PlayStation 5 is the fastest console in the world, and well, technically that's true considering the current competition would be the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro, so obviously it's the fastest out of these three. However, we don't know what Xbox Scarlett will be like, nor would Sony know that, which will be the main PlayStation 5 competitor, so again, it's an interesting statement. So either Sony is extremely confident in their hardware, or they're comparing it to the current generation of consoles that are on the market right now. And based off everything we know about both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Scarlett, they'll be very similar. We know they both have a solid-state hard drive, and we also know they have different but similar processors as well. Now, there is a real possibility that one or the other may have a minor advantage, but based off everything that we do know, they'll be very similar to the point any advantage may be negligible. And let me explain why. At first, I originally thought the Xbox Scarlett would be more powerful, mainly because I thought that it would launch at $500, whereas the PlayStation 5 will come out at the $400 price tag, similar to what they did this generation. But as more and more information came out, I expect both will have the same price tag at $500. And I know people tend to look at the past and try to predict the future, but I don't think you can do that in this situation either. The Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 launched a year apart from one another, with the PlayStation 3 being $200 more expensive, and while the Xbox One and PlayStation 4 launched at the same time, Don Matrick was head of Xbox, and they were all in on motion controls and Kinect, so they really focused on pushing Kinect out with the launch of Xbox One. Because of them bundling it with the original Xbox One, it drove up the price, and they had weaker hardware because of this, which was the main difference with the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Whereas the PlayStation 4 had DDR4 RAM, the Xbox One instead had DDR3 RAM, as well as ESRAM, giving the PlayStation 4 an advantage. And then people may point out that the Xbox One X is more powerful than the PlayStation 4 Pro, and again, while this is true, you have to look at both the price and the release date. The PlayStation 4 Pro released a year earlier than the Xbox One X and $100 cheaper. So again, the higher price and a year later equals more powerful hardware. So what we know as of this moment is both the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Scarlett has similar hardware so far, and that they are both releasing holiday 2020, so we can probably expect to have the same price tag as well, which means for the first time ever, both will be launching at the same time and more than likely at the same price. Because of this, and unless something changes, I just believe both will be very similar in terms of specs, with maybe minor differences at most. This is under the assumption that both are the same price, of course. At the end of the day, and I'm always going to say this, but just focus on good games, and next generation, I think we're going to get a lot of great games from both of them. With Xbox pushing Xbox Game Pass hard and acquiring studios, I expect them to be much better next generation, and then PlayStation of course has some of the most acclaimed developers such as Naughty Dog and Santa Monica, and then they are much better acclimated with Japanese developers as well, so yeah, I think just go with your preferences on games here. If possible, get both, and if not, just go to whatever games you prefer. Maybe I'm wrong, but I really don't believe there's going to be a big power gap this time around from either side. Moving on, 2 high-profile games will be delayed in 2020, which is The Last of Us Part 2, which is being moved to spring, and also Ghost of Tsushima to late 2020. The thing is, The Last of Us Part 2 just got a release date for February last month, so I do find the delay to be very odd here, and I'm not really sure as to reason why. One explanation could be that they want to add multiplayer in for launch, as they did get a lot of negative feedback when announcing it wouldn't be there at launch, so that's just one possible scenario I can think of. Now, as for Ghost of Tsushima, it was more of a domino effect than anything, where they pushed it back because they didn't want both to be releasing in such a close proximity to one another. Though Jason Schreier is saying Ghost of Tsushima isn't a PlayStation 5 game, so the release window being close to the PlayStation 5 could be odd as well. I think it's probably a cross-gen game at the very least. The game based off the demos just looks absolutely gorgeous. In other news, Bethesda announced a subscription service for none other than Fallout 76 at $100 a year, which has left fans even more annoyed with this game than they already were, if that was even possible. The problem here is that several people have already felt ripped off, considering Fallout 76 has had a ton of issues since it first launched, and while a lot of that has been fixed since then, the stigma has not. See, developers have to build a relationship with their community, and by releasing Fallout 76 in the state it was at launch has kind of broken that trust with fans, and now they're wanting to charge a $100 subscription service as well. So far, it's went about the way you would think it would, with a lot of criticism. Though I will say that Outer Worlds will be out tomorrow, and hey, it's very similar to Fallout as it's made by the same developers who made Fallout New Vegas, so if you want to get that instead, it's always an option. Now let's talk about something a little bit more positive, because for you Persona 5 fans out there, you're getting an official sequel by the name of Persona 5 Scramble: The Phantom Strikers. And not only is it releasing on the PlayStation 5, but it's coming to the Nintendo Switch as well. I mean, it's a bit unfortunate that the first Persona 5 game isn't coming to the Nintendo Switch as well, but this game actually looks pretty good. It's not your typical Persona game with the turn-based combat, but rather they went for a more action-based RPG with real-time combat. And while that may not be for everyone, I'll say it again, it's looking pretty good, so hopefully you Persona 5 fans are excited for this one. Speaking of JRPG games, we got some information about Pokemon as well, but not about Sword and Shield, but rather they talked about Pokemon Let's Go, and this surprises me because they have no more Let's Go games planned. But it did add some new features that was really cool, and it was a highly successful game as well. In all honesty, I thought they would continue to make more Let's Go remakes such as Silver and Gold, but it appears this may be a one-time only thing, or at least for the time being. Maybe not a big deal, but I'm curious about your thoughts on this, so let me know in the comments below. Now the last thing I want to talk about real quick is that Xbox announced a few partnerships to make the Xbox mobile experience better. As we know, Xbox is releasing their streaming service soon, Project XCloud, which will allow you to play your Xbox games on your phone or tablet. Well, Xbox is also trying to make this experience the best possible experience it can be in terms of controller options, as they have teamed up with 8BitDo, PowerA, Razer, Hori, and GameVice to give you better accessories on the market. The only thing that's been announced so far is a new Xbox controller clip by PowerA, and you can pre-order it on the Microsoft Store right now for $15. I also wouldn't be surprised to see some kind of Switch-like controller option coming soon. I mean, they did have a patent for that once upon a time, so wouldn't be surprised to see that come as well. And as somebody who wants to try their streaming service, I like that they're taking this serious and giving us better options, so it'll be interesting to see where these partnerships go from here. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and bell notification button. Peace out.